So it's been quite a ride for your stock. You can see the big pop when you had those positive results for your drug. Now there are going to be questions about if the comparison of the drug was accurate. You compared your drug to a mineral oil, and now the worries are that wasn't a fair comparison because mineral oil is really bad. What do you say to all that conversation?
Well, interesting to hear people calling mineral oil really bad. Our feedback from...
I'm dumbing it down.
I understand. I understand. Our feedback, and it's early, we've been had these results now for about a week and a half. Our feedback from physicians and our sales forces out there talking to physicians now regularly has been all very positive. We appreciate that even editorials written by competitor product, concluded that our drug saves lives and should be, considered going forward. I think they'd like to have their drug considered, but they're about 2 years behind us. So we have subjected our drug to extensive scientific review at both the American Heart Association and through publication by the New England Journal of Medicine. Those folks who know the data best conclude that our drug is effective. And having a drug that reduces heart attack by 31%, stroke by 28%, and death by 20%, and all of that on top of statin therapy, we think is a real game changer, and we're just getting started.
And so from a corporate perspective, from a strategic perspective, what do you do next? It's hard for a small company in this space, especially given all the volatility that Alex just described. You are living with it day to day from an investor perspective. Do you need to team up here? How do you deal with the broader market? How do you get this drug over the finish line? Does it require you linking up with someone else?
Let's define the finish line first, because the finish line is huge. If you look at cardiovascular disease, roughly 1 in 4 people in the United States have, cardiovascular issues. You know that lowering cholesterol reduces that risk by about 25 to 35%, but that leaves 65 to 75% of that risk there. So we're talking about tens of millions of patients who could potentially benefit for this. So you're right. Reaching tens of millions of patients takes a considerable effort. We have great data from our drug. We are expanding our sales force by roughly, tripling it. We'll have we were at approximately 135 sales reps last year. We'll start the coming year at over 400 sales reps. We've had over 18,000 resumes for the 250 positions that we're hiring. So we're looking very bullishly towards the future.
So David Kotok, also here at Cumberland Advisors. Do you have a question?
I do. And a little disclosure, I have a stent. I had high triglycerides. I changed my diet. I take a statin, and I'm sitting here. So I'm all in favor of any drug that gives me a better opportunity to enjoy life. And that's important. And anything to focus on an omega-3 that might be more pure certainly helps me and a whole bunch of folks like me. The question is, wouldn't you want to compare it with a cohort like me, your drug versus a nutritional supplement that's over the counter, and be able to do an A versus B?
So the profile that you described for yourself is a very good profile for the types of patients that we studied in our 8-year-long cardiovascular outcome study. And in that study, we showed significant results. We compared ourselves against placebo. This was a study designed with the FDA. We agreed to the placebo with the FDA. It's very difficult to compare against fish oil supplements because they're all different.
Understood.
And what we've seen and there's been 4 separate studies this year of fish oil supplements, all of which have shown no benefit. They've all not hit their primary endpoints. So you could sort of argue that we compared against fish oil. They're not showing benefit, and neither does placebo.
Does the cohort have dietary issues? I was emailing the releases with Christine Schlesinger this morning. She's an expert in nutrition and geriatric care, a 40-year veteran of the area. And she said, if people change their diets, triglycerides change, and that should be, in her view, should be part of the conversation. I don't want to disparage in any way your company, your drug, what you're trying to do. I'm all in favor of anything that improves health. The thing is, do we need a holistic conversation?
We do need a holistic conversation. We would certainly encourage diet and exercise first. In our study, what we took is all comers. These are all patients who were treated for well-controlled cholesterol through statins and another therapy. So on average, they had their cholesterol down to 75 mg per deciliter, which is considered to be pretty low. So these are well-managed patients to begin with. And what we showed on top of that was a 25% risk reduction. Omega-3s is a pretty complicated science, and just lowering triglycerides, we find out, is not enough. That's just a small piece of it. It's like somebody who has a cough. You really want to figure out, is it a flu, is it a cold, get to the underlying symptoms. And our drug gets to some of those underlying symptoms. We're reducing things like plaque in the arteries. We're getting into cell function, things that might have resulted in the triglycerides and other effects being a problem to begin with. And it's that underlying science and the specificness of our drug versus other omega-3s that I think delivers this result while others have not.
Going forward, what kind of company would be good to partner with or buy you to scale?
So right now, we think we're very well positioned to do this in the United States on our own. We do have a partner in China who's progressing a clinical trial there. We've just recently gotten some approvals in the Middle East. We've just signed up a partner for Canada. We will be exploring opportunities in Europe and other parts of the world. In the United States, we know the KOLs. We already have very strong reimbursement. This is an affordably priced product. We think that if we're going to try to help tens of millions of patients, it needs to be an affordably priced product. And the alternative are very expensive procedures for stroke, heart attacks, death, which is expensive if done in the hospital. So we think the cost benefit is very positive. The benefit against risk is very positive, and we think when you have those kinds of results, it's compelling, and physicians will begin to use it.